Wait a minute. You like wrestling?
Of course I like wrestling. That's why I hate it. Outlaws.
Wrestling is better than the things you like.
Outlaws.
You'll take those rattlesnake fangs and you'll stick them right in my ass.
Middle-aged. Outlaws.
Today I'm middle-aged.
Do you ever remember The Undertaker saying that you'll take those rattlesnake fangs and stick them right in my ass?
No, and I feel like it's the kind of thing I would have remembered.
Me too. Oh, well, that's our new music. Do you like it?
It works for me. Yeah, it's some of those get me a bit. I do laugh at some of them. It's good.
A little bit of wrestling chat, a little bit of Phil from Modern Family. Was that his name,
Yeah.
Phil?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Phil Dunphy, there you go. He's a legend.
That's it. Yeah.
Welcome, everybody, to episode 37. I am dead in the late, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, dead. It's gone. Because I had some wrestling podcast on the other day, and that's exactly how the guy introduced it. Ladies and gentlemen, boys, so and that's done.
It's
Isn't that?
disappointing because it was it yours first? I mean, when did they start doing that? Whoever that is.
I don't know. I never even looked into it.
Ah,
We need to be innovators. We're wolf in this place, no sheep. Are we?
I don't know what we are at this stage.
Okay. Yeah, so episode 37. We're in the year 2000. And as I've been putting off doing year 2000 pay-per-views because I've been living in hope one day that you might agree to us doing a little murder mystery tour of the year 2000 again. However, I may have seen the light after watching this pay-per-view.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll get into it. This was my pick, Judgment Day 2000. And basically I picked it because of the Ironman match, because of Triple H versus The Rock. I watched Backlash 2000 before it, where they also have a main event, which is pretty good. I can't remember the exact details of it. I want to say Shane McMahon was the special guest referee in that one.
Okay.
Possibly. Or it's maybe Triple H and Shane versus The Rock or something equally gimmicky and silly. But yeah, the main reason for picking this pay-per-view was definitely the Ironman match. So before we get into it, shall we do the usual? I've got some facts about May 2000 to shock and entertain you with and make you probably quite depressed.
Yeah. It sounds, even just hearing the date, it sounds recent and it's not.
Wildly recent. Yeah. I was having this conversation the other day. I was saying 1997 to me, I think I've said this before, it feels relatively recent. Like,
yeah, that's like
that just
5 years
happened.
ago or something. Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah.
And COVID's just made it worse. So in May 2000, we got the film premiere of Ridley Scott's Oscar-winning film Gladiator.
Okay.
Starring Russell Crowe. The Marshall Mathers LP, Eminem's second album, was released. How many albums he released since then? Many subpar
30,
albums.
Yeah.
Real Madrid beat Valencia 3-0 to win the UEFA Champions League.
Okay.
I thought that wasn't the Hamden game, eh?
No, that was Leverkusen, Madrid and Leverkusen.
Was it at Hamden?
Yeah.
Nice, the Zidane classic
Yeah.
volley. We've got a notable birth here. Let's see if you can guess who this would be. So, a current... Nah, you're never going to guess. I was going to say a current WWE superstar, but you probably don't know like 50% of the roster. So, an American Olympic gold medalist and current WWE superstar.
Like born on that date
In May 2000, yeah. Nah. Gable Steveson.
That's, yeah. Yeah. I know the name. Never actually seen him perform in any way, but I know the name.
Nah, me neither. And a notable marriage where they were probably drinking each other's blood, and it wasn't Gangrel. It was Billy Bob Thornton and Angelina Jolie.
Okay. I mean,
Bill-
some of that doesn't sound like it should be that long ago. Some of it does.
Yeah. Billy Bob Thornton taking punching to the nth degree there. UK chart number 1. What you want to take a guess, or do you want me just to tell you and just get into the wrestling?
Just go for it. I've never really got one of these, so yeah.
Okay.
Put me out of my misery.
I think you might be a fan of this. I was going to say this young lady, but I'm sure she's not yet. Billy Piper. The song was called Day and Night.
Okay.
Does it ring any bells?
Nah, it doesn't ring a bell.
And it didn't for me either, but then I listened to it on Spotify. US chart number 1 is Maria Maria by Carlos Santana
Okay.
and a cast of others.
Yeah. Okay.
So there you go.
Eye-opening.
You seem riveted. So let's get into this pay-per-view. We're in Louisville, Kentucky, not Louisville, Kentucky. That is an inside joke if you've seen the pay-per-view. You're looking at me with a completely straight face. As a reference to the cheap heat that Christian was getting. Yeah, we're smack bang in the middle of the year. We've just come off a shit WrestleMania.
Yeah,
WrestleMania
shit.
2000 with the McMahon in every corner.
Yeah.
Probably about as crap a WrestleMania main event as you can get.
It just
there's
didn't
some-
work, did it? Yeah.
Nah. But like I said, the backlash after it was really good. And this pay-per-view is really good. Fair?
Yeah, I enjoyed this. When you said what it was going to be, it's one of those where, I remembered the main event without remembering the detail of it. I have to be honest, but I didn't really remember what else was going on here in terms of storylines that others are involved in. And it was. I enjoyed it. Like looking back, watching it, I enjoyed it. There's a lot of good stuff on it, but it's obviously all about the main event, really. But some of the other stuff's quite entertaining.
Yeah, sums it up pretty nicely. I'd agree with that. So to kick us off, we've got a bit of a gimmicky 60-minute themed video package. WWE or WWF at this time, telling all their audience that the number of people that die in 60 minutes, that was incredibly uplifting and all these sort of things. And then we're straight into it. JR and Jerry King Lawler welcome us to WWE Judgment Day, brought to you by Army Men World War the video game.
Nice.
That's what it says in the tin, I guess.
Yeah.
And this, you're in the year 2000 because we're immediately straight backstage with the McMahon-Helmsley faction and DX. They're game planning their respective matches. So I don't really remember DX being part of this whole thing with Vince.
No, neither did I. When it was starting, I was thinking I think you see like Stephanie and Triple H and all that, and then you start seeing others. And I remember being a little bit surprised when you've got like Road Dogg and X-Pac sitting there. In my mind, that was two totally different parts of Triple H's career, but no, apparently not.
And yeah, so they're sitting around game planning, and this is all interrupted because Gerald Briscoe, I think Briscoe gets sent for the coffees.
Yeah, he does. Yeah.
And as he walks out the room, the headbangers, he's wearing the Hardcore Championship belt as if it's like his normal belt, which I quite appreciated. That does seem like the sort of thing that Gerald Briscoe would do. Yeah. And yeah, last time we spoke about Deadly Game, and that pay-per-view was centered around the Boss Man. This one is centered around Gerald Briscoe, the Hardcore Championship. It's quite entertaining. The headbangers attack him.
There's quite a few appearances, isn't there? As we go through, which is, I don't know, you would never picture Gerald Briscoe making quite as many appearances on a pay-per-view as this, but I thought he sold the whole thing quite well. It's over the top and it's a bit daft, but he's committed to the part.
Yeah, it's entertaining, definitely is. So after we see the Headbangers attacking Briscoe, we then cut to a sort of classic thing that they do on Raw when, they're just going before the break and you see two competitors that are going in the main event walking down, just walking down a hallway somewhere. But this is Shawn Michaels dressed in his tight shorts. He's all dressed ready for the main event already. He's still got, he's got an hour and a half to wait.
Mm-hmm.
We're drinking these shorts.
It's they're a bit much. He's got some. He's probably, I don't know, playing second fiddle just to Briscoe here, because we see him at a few segments, sort of either being interviewed or meeting in dark corners with participants in the match and things like that. But I think we talked about some point a couple of weeks ago. We weren't sure quite where Michaels would have been here, because he's obviously left. He hasn't come back yet. I think there's a couple of times they tried to bring him back in various roles, and maybe he wasn't in the right sort of mental frame of mind to be back. And I wasn't sure if that was maybe still the case here to some extent.
Yeah, I think he'd been commissioner at by this point, hadn't he? And he'd been did they try to bring him back on the commentary team for a little bit, and it didn't work as well, like you said.
And I think all of them were quite brief, every attempt, and we're still about 2 years away maybe from him coming back as an actual wrestler. And
he'd for the very first episode of SmackDown, he'd guest refed a match between Triple H and The Rock. And I think this is referenced by The Rock because Shawn Michaels hit some of the Sweet Chin music during that match, doesn't he?
Yeah.
So out to the ring. We get some wrestling. If that's what you want to call this wrestling. But who do we get first? We get Kurt Angle coming out first. So this match is Kurt Angle, Edge and Christian versus Too Cool and Rikishi 6-man tag match. Always a fan of Kurt, Edge and Christian being together. I'm guessing you are too.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know if I ever remember. I know it's been referenced a few times, Team Ek, but I think this was the first time I remember noticing it as that's how they're billed when they're going into this match.
Right.
And I know that there was a lot of time on backstage segments between the three of them and things like that. And I think getting to see the sort of comedy side of Kurt Angle, he gives a promo here.
Yes,
mentions teenage girls thinking he's all that, and tells a nursery rhyme telling them to be clean and abstinent. I can't think how long he would have been in the company here.
I think he's the back end of 99. No, it's the back end of 99, so not long.
Yeah,
6 months.
And he's playing this ridiculously over the top, pompous, full of himself Olympic gold medalist. But I think that the pairing with him and Edge and Christian works pretty well. They played off each other pretty well.
Aye. When he says he's been getting a lot of attention from teenage girls since hanging out with Edge and Christian, Jerry Lawler sounded a little bit too excited for my liking. So he cuts that promo. Then we get Edge and Christian coming out. I've written down here, this is obviously at the point where Edge and Christian have found their charisma. I find Edge really funny here. Yeah, he's just I don't know, they're like surfer, goofy type characters they're playing. They're funny.
There's something, I don't know why. It's maybe because we've then seen the characters Edge becomes later on in his career. I don't know if that makes it funnier, what he's like here.
Maybe.
Because he's so, usually nowadays, he's so straight. And there's a seriousness to the characters and things like that, where he's just having a laugh here. It's pretty funny.
100%. So they do it. They get a bit of cheap heat for the crowd, and they're doing the whole hillbilly thing and all that sort of stuff. It's pretty funny. King's laugh, over the top laugh, and I think it adds to it, makes it even funnier. Then we get Too Cool and Rikishi coming out, and my God, how ridiculously over are them as they come out.
It's amazing. Like they're one of these teams. Even I think when they had Rikishi with them, and they're entertaining. They're not. I never thought they're there to be taken too seriously. But then you bring in the Rikishi element, who has his serious moments throughout his career, but just looks like somebody who could absolutely destroy anyone that he's in the ring with. And they're bringing out this other side of him throughout the whole thing. A sort of just a pure entertainment side. But yeah, I remember always thinking, well, they were there a while and they were entertaining, but I think they were maybe, for my liking at the time, I don't know if I just found them annoying after a while. I always thought they were positioned a little bit too high up the card, but that's just me and my taste and opinions. But I can see why they probably put Rikishi with them, because it gives them, I think, credibility, and
Some
it brings out
legitimacy.
this other side of him as well.
Aye. And at this point in time, Edge and Christian are coming off TLC 2? Are they?
Yeah.
Aye.
Yeah, I think that's right, yeah.
And they're tag team champions, and, you know, like to go from Dudley's and the Hardys and those ridiculous matches to Too Cool, what seems to be positioning them as in a sort of rivalry is probably a bit questionable, really. But aye, they're so over. And even just stupid stuff like Grandmaster Sexy doing the running man, his trousers falling down, is enough. Like, the crowd are absolutely loving it.
Yeah.
And like, and Scotty Too Hotty as well, like just getting a tag in, doing a daft wee dance, and then bouncing around the ring, and they're absolutely loving it. I thought Christian and Scotty Too Hotty had quite good chemistry in this match. I particularly noticed them two; they seemed to go back and forward quite well.
Yeah. And I think they were both in quite a lot of the time as well. Both working quite a chunk of the match. Christian's in some comedy here as well. I've got in my notes that Scotty dominates Christian, then goes for a moonwalk and gets caught. But that's very much just that kind of match. You've talked about the pants down, and then Scotty is actually mocking the size of the worm. As King says it about his own son. Yeah, and but every time, I think it happens a couple of times, Rikishi just kind of comes in and cleans house. He just basically takes everyone down and out and things like that. And it's, you know, I think I'm trying to think when his main event push comes, because I think it comes pretty abruptly. Like, I think he's in basically the team with these guys, and then eventually kind of turns on them and ends up in some of the main event angles. Not sure how far away we would be from here, but I always feel like they always made him look strong. Like he could just win the match if you can get him, if he gets you in the ring on your own, he'll just win the match. That's how it kind of felt like they were positioning it to me.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It was, you know, like he's taking all three of them, throwing them into into the corner and squashing them all. Them all randomly falling down in an angle, getting the stink face and all that sort of stuff.
Stink face, yeah. They did talk on one of his podcasts about the fact that it's a genuinely unpleasant experience.
God, it's funny watching it all those years and just probably thinking, oh, you know, it's a funny thing. But see, going back and watching, you're like, oh my God, really?
Don't do that.
No. So this finishes quite abruptly. As you'd expect in a sort of 6-man tag, there's a lot going on towards the end. Like you've mentioned, sort of Rikishi gets a hot tag and squashes all three of them a couple of times. I've got Edge takes the worm from Scotty Too Hotty, and then Christian just comes in and nails Rikishi with a ring bell, sort of out of nowhere. Grandmaster Sexy. So Edge is pinning Rikishi after taking the ring bell on the head. Grandmaster Sexy hits a leg drop for the top rope on Edge, who's pinning him, and that is enough for the win. I take it Rikishi rolls back over on top of Edge, and that's it.
Yeah. Rikishi pins Edge. They have Angle trying to get into the ring to make the save, but he's just too late. And then you've got the classic celebration with. I mean, it doesn't seem to matter how many times they do it. The crowd are going crazy for it, but also I think from memory, every single time Rikishi goes as if he's going to leave the ring,
Yeah.
and then it gets talked into coming back out, and then the sunglasses have this amazing transformation on him, and he starts leading the dancing as he always did.
I need to get a pair of these yellow sunglasses. Why didn't Bret Hart's never do that to me? He just imagine he put them on a kid at the side of the ring and they started just dancing like Rikishi. That'd be weird, and have nothing to do with Bret Hart's gimmick.
Yeah, I don't know why I just suddenly started imagining Bret in that gimmick doing the dancing. I'm not sure. I'm not sure he would have been happy with it.
Still cutting like really, really serious promos, never referencing it. So we go to the backstage. Michael Cole, just an update on where he is as far as frosted tips are concerned. He still has his frosted tips. And he is with the aforementioned pajama wearing Shawn Michaels. He this made me laugh a little bit. So he says he's been hired by Linda McMahon to do a job, and that's what he'll do. Michael Cole then says there are rumors swirling on WWF.com. The HBK is jealous of The Rock. And Michael says if it's on the internet, then it's got to be true, which is quite funny. I like the idea of rumours swirling on WWF.com, like it's like like there's message boards and all that sort of stuff.
I think some of those rumours from other stuff I've heard may have been true when The Rock first broke in, that Michaels wasn't for him getting over because he was a wee bit worried about his spot, like they used to say. So I think there maybe at times was some genuine heat of some kind.
Bit of animosity.
Yeah.
And there was talk about Shawn having been rude to Rock's grandmother or something like that when he'd been on a show in where? Hawaii? No. Am I being inappropriate and mixing up my islands? No, I was going to say Samoa. That's even worse. It is Hawaii, is it not?
I think it is Hawaii, yeah. I think you're fine. Don't think you have to edit that out. All good.
Okay. Tonga.
Yeah.
So we go to the parking lot, I think, and we see a radiator of a car pulling in with Eddie and China, who are just like two of the happiest people in the world. Mamacita and all that sort of stuff. Talking the happiest people in the world, Dean Malenko appears and growls at China to stay out of their match as they're having a triple threat match for the European Championship. Perry Saturn then turns up, looks both ways and says something aggressive. I have no idea what he said. Sorry,
yeah, Teddy. I don't have it in my notes, but yeah, I remember him doing that. It's a funny character, Saturn. Yeah, like he looked memorable. He stood out. He had quite a look about him, and I'm sure I've heard Bruce Pritchard say before that he was the one that physically, when they brought them all across, he caught the eye the most.
Really?
Not in ring work, but
right, okay.
And Vince, considered to be a body guy, would look at him and think, oh, look at that guy. But I don't think had quite the same in-ring talent as at least, well, probably all the others, I would say.
I'm sure he was like an army ranger or something like that.
Right.
Perry Saturn. He's a badass.
Maybe some issues over the years probably cost him having a lengthy run.
He's got a Tyson face tattoo now.
Yeah.
Have you seen him, mate?
Yeah, I've seen a picture of that tattoo. Yeah.
Okay, so like I say, we've got this triple threat match. We've got Eddie with China. So the Radicals have obviously split at this point, yes?
Yeah, at least Eddie's definitely gone his own way. I don't know that there was ever a big Fallout split, or if it was more of a we've just got our own business to deal with type situation split.
Okay.
But then it's the setup for the match fairly interesting, given that I don't think it's that long ago that they were all working together as a team, and now it's three of them for a singles title.
Aye, and obviously Eddie's got his own lane here as far as Latino. He's over. Perry Saturn's got his own music, and poor Di Malenko's still just coming out to the Radicals music. He's like Roman with a shield. He just ends up with the chest protector and the shitty music. Yeah, what have you got to say about this match? I genuinely don't have much. I was a little bit annoyed at the finish, but
Yeah, I don't. I knew it was going to be very much Eddie and China, and I was kind of waiting for something in terms of her involvement in the finish. You've got I think what you would expect in terms of the dynamic early on, where it's Saturn and Malenko are double teaming Eddie, and the commentators put the idea in your mind that it'll probably happen quite soon, that it's a triple threat, everyone wants to win the belt, and then soon enough, quickly enough, Saturn hits a clothesline on Malenko, and that's kind of their team up abandoned for now. Saturn, he's doing quite a few power moves through the match, dominating power early on. He does a gorilla press slam on Eddie.
impressive.
Got them. It's like you do get moments where one of them is just kind of standing back, and there's a logic to that, because there's I'll just let that guy do that move, and then I'll try and sneak my way in. We've got Malenko saving Guerrero from a Saturn clothesline, and I thought, well, that doesn't really make sense, because you would just let him do it, wouldn't you? A spot where Eddie manages to kick them both in the balls simultaneously, which was quite impressive.
Gimmick relevant.
Yeah, yeah. Eddie hits a few decent moves, Hurricane Ranas. I think there's a moment in here. I've got this in my notes, and my apologies to JR if he didn't say this, but this is what I heard him say in my mind.
My God.
I think he said, "Mamacita looks bodacious."
Oh dear.
Which just stood out because JR just shouldn't be saying things like that. It just doesn't sound right or natural for him.
I agree. He also comments on what I've got here is the shittiest knee slap splash that I've ever seen from Malenko. That's not like a full-on frog splash. It's just like, I'm falling off the top ropes and I'm going to slap my legs. And he's like super impressed by us. He's do you know what move I'm talking about?
I think so. Yeah.
What is that?
I've got a few more notes about some moves in here as well. Power bomb by Malenko and Eddie, goes for the Texas Cloverleaf, but breaks it up because Saturn's looming.
Love a Texas Cloverleaf. Say it every time, it's class. Somebody needs to adopt that as their finisher.
Saturn and Malenko looked like they were setting up Eddie for a doomsday device. But Saturn sends Eddie into the ropes, which crotches Malenko on the turnbuckle. Saturn going for a top turnbuckle suplex on Malenko, but is this where the move happened you were talking about?
Yep.
Malenko throws Saturn off and hits I've got Gutbuster written on that. I don't know if that's the correct term.
Oh, no, that's a different thing he does.
That
was a cool move. That
I must not have your move in my notes, but I do remember seeing it. Saturn frog splash on Eddie for a 2. Saturn goes for the Texas Cloverleaf on Malenko.
They all started doing each other's sort of finishing moves. It was quite cool.
Yeah, Eddie with a brainbuster on Saturn. Malenko breaks it. A 3-man suplex. Saturn throwing Malenko, who throws Eddie. And then this is where the finish comes into play, with that dastardly China on the outside.
Bodacious.
She's been carrying a bunch of roses the whole time, and she hits Saturn with the roses, and it's like he's completely out cold. Malenko goes to take the roses off China, who's on the apron, but she grabs his foot. He falls face first onto the flowers.
Yeah.
And Eddie Guerrero rolls up Malenko for the win to retain, all thanks to those flowers.
And they get up to the top of the ramp and they're like, oh, there was a pipe in the flowers. Fuck off. we go back to our main star of the show. Gerald Briscoe is backstage, and we see footage from SmackDown when he won the title. He pinned a sleeping Crash Holly backstage, and they're like, the funny thing about this is Michael Cole's doing the commentary, and he's whispering on the commentary, Gerald Briscoe wins it. Hardcore.
He does. It's funny. Like a finger pin, isn't it? Just
And the ref's just like 1, 2, 3. So we see Briscoe, he's in the toilets and he's like crawling about the toilets. Then he pops his head up at the sinks and sees himself in the mirror and falls over. All the nonsense.
I did laugh at that. It's so over the top, but I did laugh at that.
And then we go to our next match, a non-disqualification match between Shane McMahon and which way did he go? Which way did he go? The Big Show. Yeah. I don't know what this. I don't really know what the backstory is here.
I think. See, at that WrestleMania you talked about, it was Shane that was in Big Show's corner, wasn't it?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And he was his guy. He's not been able to get the job done, and then it's like I took it as Shane's just had enough with him. He's done with him, so he starts like publicly humiliating him. I actually totally forgot about the which way did he go thing. Just making Big Show look like this big, I don't know, dumb lug.
It's kind of exactly the same as that program that Shane worked with Braun Strowman. Was that a couple of years ago or something?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
This was when like Big Show was dressing as Hogan and stuff like that.
Yeah, they were doing he's trying to find his identity type thing. And for some reason, finding his identity meant mimicking others.
Yep. Yeah. And also Big Show has rap music here. I don't remember this either. It was horrendous. His intro music was horrendous.
Yeah.
So this goes. This goes as expected. I've got hardly any notes for this. Big Show's just kind of throwing him about the ring, and then we get a WCW Nitro worth of people just interfering. Who do we get? Big Boss Man. It's the star of the Deadly Game pay-per-view, the Big Boss Man. TNA came out. I don't know what Trish thought she was going to do to help with against the Big Show.
She tries to hit a low blow, but it doesn't have any effect.
No. He picks her up and launches her out the ring onto Test and Albert. Who else we got? Bull Buchanan appears out of nowhere.
Yeah.
Albert makes a lot of noise when he's doing moves, I noticed.
I don't think I picked up on that.
It doesn't do much to enhance his manoeuvres. Anyway, so they kind of beat him up. They beat Big Show up all the way up the entrance ramp. And I thought this was where Shane does his first ever sort of gigantic dive thing. But that must be a different match against Big Show. Do you remember him, like, Test was holding him down and Shane crosses himself and dives off?
I think, similar to you, I was kind of waiting for that to happen.
He starts climbing the thing as well, doesn't he? The scaffolding thing.
But I'm assuming the coming off it comes after this at some point, because you've got to
do a
think
rematch or something.
Yeah, you've got to think that Show will get his win and Shane will get his comeuppance. Doesn't always work out like that, but it did feel like the whole thing was being built for that, and then Shane goes over here.
And the finish is even worse than Shane, just like taking a circus dive off the top of that thing. We get a really fake looking speaker explosion. Is it Bull Buchanan that pushes it on Big Show's leg?
Yep.
And then Shane picks up what do you call that? Cinder block, and mashes it over Big Show's head. It looks like the sort of kinetic sand that my kids play with. Not that I'm suggesting he should be actually taking a cement block to the head, but you know, it was a shit finish, and this is why I'm glad we're not doing all of 2000, because I would just get annoyed. Nonsense.
Yeah, I found that match quite annoying in NXT because, like you say, it's just constant run-ins and interference. And the Big Show, when it's one-on-one, is so completely dominant, and it's just Shane running for his life and then getting all the help in the world and getting a win. And the thing I don't like, see when things look as fake, like the speaker and the cinder block,
Mhm.
just come up with something else. If it's not, if you can't make it look good, just come up with something else.
Yeah. Remember in the Rumble, that horrendous Rumble match between Mankind and The Rock, and like Mankind's just taking an absolute whooping. I think Rock throws him into a speaker then, and you get the fireworks and all that.
Yeah.
That came across quite legit. This thing's sparking before it even hits the Big Show. Come on, lads. What we got here? More Briscoe shenanigans. Apparently, I've had enough of these shenanigans and now I'm bored to write it down. But I think he thinks he's going to be attacked by like 2 catering workers or something like that, and just ends up attacking them.
Is this one the one, or have I missed one? Is this? I've got that he
Or is it
goes
the
to try
referee
and
one?
find a place to relax, and it's the referee room, and then he gets really jumpy around the refs. And to be fair, they're starting to look a bit shifty, and yeah, he has to get the hell out of there.
He's like, I need to get some sleep. They're like, maybe just vacate it, Gerald. Go and get them coffees and chill. Here we go. Shawn Michaels and Triple H being big banter bros in the locker room is what I've written here. Triple H starts mocking him for his shorts and looks totally Trump-esque orange. I take it it's because Shawn's, just sort of come off the bench to do this sort of thing. But Triple H is incredibly orange here sitting next to him.
It's maybe if everyone's got the big tan, it doesn't stand out quite so much.
So next we are into a good wrestling match, Adam.
Yeah.
A submission match for the Intercontinental title. Jericho Benoit. What more needs to be said? You know what you're getting, eh? You knew you're getting a good match.
Yeah. No, I had two guys that I particularly liked watching their matches over the years, and I think every time I've seen
you have to phrase it that way.
Yeah. You have to be careful with the words there, and I think the chemistry that they've got between them is good. That I always think every time I see them going up against each other, it looks stiff. Like that, neither of them are holding anything back. They both want to make it look real, and if you're both in there with that same mindset, that's fine. Just do what you need to do. But yeah, I think I can't think of any matches between the two that weren't good. I enjoyed this one. I think with all the stuff that's been going on in all the previous matches on the card, it was good to just have an actual wrestling match.
Yeah, 100%. So the story sort of going into this is that 3 days ago on SmackDown, I think. I'm just going to say verbatim what's in my notes. 3 days ago on SmackDown, that gigantic asshole, Hardcore Holly, did a number on Benoit's knee. So Benoit's got a big sort of Stone Cold style knee brace on. And obviously we're going into a submission match. That's a bit of a weakness. So and we know that Jericho's going to try and go for that. So yeah, they both sort of go with the same method that you'd expect. They both try and isolate something particular to the walls of Jericho and the Crippler Crossface across this match, which I appreciated. They're both quite methodical. Did you enjoy it overall, though?
Yeah, I could never remember, like, in terms of who's in what kind of role here. But we see when Jericho came out, it was massively over with the crowd. And I was thinking, well, this is obviously before any heel turn. He's maybe not been there all that long at this point in time, but he gets a really, really strong crowd reaction. And yeah, they're just starting off going for chops, and then
they're really going at each other. That's what you're talking about, them being stiff, eh? They're chopping. Aye.
And And there's an immediately, maybe not so much attempts to go for submissions, but attempts to start trying to weaken the body parts that you would go for, which all makes sense. There's a lot going on, as we would expect with both the two of these guys. There's a lot of moves, a lot of wrestling moves on the go, and they keep talking about the knee of Benoit. It's mentioned quite a few times, and I think quite early on, it looks like Jericho's going to try and go for the walls of Jericho, and Benoit kind of powers out using his legs.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, but there's what I like about these two. It comes across as there's almost a genuine, like, survival instinct kicks in as soon as one of them is going for a submission move, which just makes it seem a little bit more real. It's
that you've trained for it, sort of
I
thing.
have to get out of this. I have to right now. He's going for this. I've got to get out of it. I always felt that was something Benoit did really well in his matches. Just made it look. I remember one with Bret Hart. I think it was in WCW, where it's Bret Hart's going to try and put on the sharpshooter, and it's like there's Benoit scrambling all over the place, trying to just avoid getting that put on him, which sells the move and tells you this is a guy who's desperate not to end up in that move and lose the match.
100%. There's a point where Benoit is working on Jericho's shoulder, neck area, which all makes sense, crossface, and he's got Jericho in the tombstone position. JR questions what this is that he's going to do, and JR says, I don't want to say what it looks like he's doing to him.
Yeah, JR was in a feisty mood here. Sign of things to come.
They almost lost me by continually showing Hardcore Holly and Val Venus watching the matches.
Not a Hardcore Holly guy, no.
They're like, these are lower caliber. Like, maybe show them watching the European title match. They're no in a continental title level. Piss off. No interested in seeing Commissioner Morley or Val Venus or whatever gimmick he's doing at the moment. Piss off. Certainly no Hardcore Holly. We get to a point where Jericho finally gets to the point where he removes Benoit's knee brace, starts whipping him with it. Interesting noting them going for the ropes when it's a submission match, and I honestly wasn't sure whether they had to break the hold or no, because there's no DQ in a submission match, obviously, but do they still have to break the hold after 5 seconds?
I don't know how that would work. I mean, obviously, or how it's intended to work, because I'm trying to think. There are a couple of times it happens, and they do break the hold, don't they? So, yeah.
And in the finish, Benoit's got the crossface on, and he does this sort of backward roll thing where he keeps the hold and takes him back in the middle of the ring, which is really cool.
Yep.
I've got about Benoit. I've got that he's, as soon as Jericho tries to stick the lion tamer on, he's flopping about like a fish out of water, sort of thing. I take it, is that what you were referring to?
Yeah, it's something he does a couple of times in the match, just trying desperately to avoid being caught in the move. But yeah, I liked as well that, because you've got Benoit locking in the crossface a couple of times in Jericho. I think he breaks out once, and then Benoit takes him immediately to the middle of the ring. I thought they kept Jericho looking pretty strong, despite the fact he loses here. I mean, they Jericho doesn't actually tap out, does he, in the crossface?
He goes an incredible shade of purple.
Yeah, and then the ref ends the match, which, it's still a defeat, but it's keeping Jericho look strong. It doesn't weaken him having lost the match there. I don't know where Benoit ends up going from here, but it feels like he's a little bit on the. It's not yet getting to the stage where he wins the world title, but it feels like they do have big plans for him in terms of the way they're putting him over in matches like this.
Yeah, who's Benoit and Jericho face? Jericho's Intercontinental Champion. Just thinking like round WrestleMania 17. Jericho's Intercontinental Champion. Who's Benoit face? Don't know. Off the top of your head. Kane, no?
Don't.
No matter. It kind of feels like when you were talking about Jericho no being long in the company, I feel like Jericho got off to this really, really quick start. Then I think his first pay-per-view match was like the Road Dogg or something like that. And he kind of
Right.
went from like this huge big start to like there was the stuff with China and all that as well. And it's only, I would say, it's only really now that he's similar to what you're saying about Benoit. It's only really about this time where he's starting to climb back up
Yeah.
towards.
Jericho is Intercontinental Champion at WrestleMania and faces William Regal.
That's
That's
opening
the
match.
opening match. And Benoit, it's his Kurt Angle match, one of his Kurt Angle matches.
Oh,
he had
nice.
At WrestleMania.
Oh, that's right, because they do this sort of shoot wrestling thing to start off the match. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. Okay, that was a good match. It was quite short, I think, and I think you're always thinking about the Ironman match being an hour, and like we get a lot of these short matches.
And you have to, I think, position it right as well. Like, I don't think you would have wanted this going on immediately before the Ironman match. You need to have that match, bring everything down again a wee bit.
And boy, do they take them down. But before we get to that, we get more Briscoe shenanigans. This time it's with, he's getting interviewed by Michael Cole. There's two catering workers behind him, and he sort of flips out through pure paranoia and starts attacking them both. Then we see The Rock basically finger wagging Shawn Michaels and saying, "You better call this down the line." And Michaels giving him the sort of rubber ear, like, "Aye, very good, okay, It's quite funny.
Yeah.
And then we get a really shit tag team match.
It's shit.
Is it? Yeah. It's DX. Where's Billy Gunn at this point?
Don't know.
Billy Gunn, is he?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah.
It's DX, which is the Road Dogg and X-Pac, apparently. I'm sure JR refers to them as one of the greatest tag teams of all time. It's like Road Dogg and X-Pac have been versus the Dudley Boys. We're at a point where Bubba Ray Dudley seems to be in a trance about getting wood and power bombing women through tables. So the whole thing is Tories with X-Pac, and he's just, the baby face is getting cheered for wanting to put women through tables.
Yeah.
That's where we are. It's 2000. Everything's edgy and cool. This is. I was actually annoyed watching this. I understand why it's where it is on the card and all that. Like you said, you couldn't have that submission match, then straight into the the Ironman match. But flipping Nora, this was not good.
Yeah, I didn't enjoy it. It felt like, firstly, I didn't know, other than, Tory and stuff. Like, it didn't feel like there was enough there for there to be a good reason for this match. It could have been any team with a woman that had in some way grabbed the attention of Bubba or something like that.
Yeah.
It kind of. I think that I really liked DX when it was Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. I liked the team. They're certainly the Outlaws with Road Dogg and Billy Gunn. I liked the DX faction when it had all of them in it. And in other ways, I like X-Pac as a worker. I think Road Dogg's entertaining, but this just didn't grab me at all.
Nah, it's like you're getting the sort of bootleg version of the middle-aged Outlaws sort of thing. It's also a table match. You're never sure as far as what the rules are. And earlier, it can't have been even that long ago at this point. This is May and January. The Dudleys had a table match with the Hardys at the Royal Rumble, which is a brilliant match. And to go back to the well so quickly, obviously they've been through TLC and all that. It just, Road Dogg and X-Pac are just not really, I don't think, up to it, sort of thing.
Did at least you got to see one of your favourite moves, a Bronco Buster?
Indeed. I have nothing to say to that. It's almost like the story of this was Bubba needing to powerbomb Tori through a table.
Yeah.
And star of the show, Gerald Briscoe, comes out and saves her, which is so random.
Yeah, I mean, I suppose, was she,
Well,
I'm trying to remember.
part of that faction.
Yeah, I was trying to remember in the opening segment if she was actually in the room with them, but I can't remember. But yeah, it was just a bit of a shit match that didn't feel like it needed to be there, and a bit of a shit finish, and a bit of a shit gimmick for these pair of teams. Yeah, just all a bit shit.
Do you know what makes me laugh though? Briscoe spent this whole pay-per-view trying not to get pinned and all that, but then he willingly came out in the middle of a table match, right? And got involved in this match. For his troubles, he gets 3D'd through a table, but nobody comes and pins him.
No, it's
like,
very strange because, I mean,
you've got somebody, Mr.
Q, boss man
Q,
style. But I mean, you've got the guys that have just put them through the table. They're stood there as well. I mean, I understand they're a tag team, but one of them could, just as a wee bonus, pick up that belt.
Yeah. I expected Crash Holly to, emerge from the crowd or something, but no. Disappointment. I never thought I'd be disappointed not to see Crash Holly, but there you go. So that leads us into, we get a sort of what I've described here in my notes as a Shining-esque video of like little twin girls, and I think they say something like "he's coming" or something like that.
Yeah.
And that all foreshadows what happens later. At this point, did you not remember what happened at the end?
Nope. Even with that
That's
foreshadowing.
incredible.
Yeah, I didn't.
That's impressive. Which leads us to the main event. Leads us. Sorry, throwing my microphone about the shop. Leads us into the main event. I'm sure I don't have any notes about the video package, but I'm sure we got a really good video package build-up sort of thing between the two of them.
Yep. Yeah. They focused quite a bit on the backlash match.
Right.
For the title.
Oh, that was when Austin returned.
Yep.
Aye, that was brilliant. That was really good.
Yep.
Yeah. So we get Triple H coming out. I've got that this is Triple H's best entrance music. I've got some very complimentary things here about Stephanie, which I won't repeat. And to me, it seems quite odd seeing Triple H coming out with Shane and Vince and Stephanie all sort of behind them. That's weird. And then Triple H gets in the ring and he says he wants to do this all by himself. I want to beat the Rock man to man, one-on-one, all that sort of stuff. So he sends Vince and Shane backstage. And then we get a bit of anticipation, and then the pop for the Rock's unbelievable.
Yeah, crazy. Absolutely crazy.
It's class. Austin-like I've got around here.
And that's, I don't know if we took it for granted at the time, but watching wrestling in the many years that followed, the pops like that were not normal.
Mm-hmm. No, 100%. And I don't know about you, the way that they've built this up, I thought the commentary team were really, really good during this match. Just overall, it felt like, Brett Shawn, WrestleMania 12, the Ironman match that they had, I felt, if you go back and watch it now, I feel like there's certainly times where it drags. I think there's times where they're obviously catching their breath, all that sort of stuff. I didn't feel that here. I think that's down to Rock and Triple H and how they put this together, whoever put it together. But I find it's down to JR and King as well. I feel like they did a brilliant job throughout.
There's one of the things that I noticed, and I noticed it quite early in this match. It's paced pretty sensibly, like in that they don't come out all guns blazing. There's a measured pace, especially early on. There are, there's moments with some rest holds and things like that, but you need that. Or there's moments when somebody's down and catching a breather. But yeah, I thought it was really interesting comparing it to the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels Ironman match, because obviously this one goes in a totally different direction, which we'll go through as we cover the match. But it was 0-0 at the end of regulation time, if you like, in the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels one, which is very different from the way we're going to go here. And there's some really good moments of, I think, logic. Certainly in some of the things Triple H does in this match. So yeah, we'll get there as we go through it.
Yeah, the thing I liked about this, I couldn't tell you how many Iron Man matches I've seen. I don't think I've seen any beyond this. I can only really recall this one and Bret and Shawn. What about you? Do you know if they did any subsequent? They probably did.
Yeah, I think that there's been a few, but none that stand out in the mind the same way as these two do.
Mm-hmm.
I have a feeling they did one on a Raw once, and it was basically the entire second hour of the show or something like that.
Wow.
Which just in hindsight seems crazy, but yeah, I'm sure there's been one on a Raw, and there'll have been a few, as you say, just none that stick in the mind all that much, I don't think.
I agree with what you're saying about them. I think you said something about them sort of starting, they don't start in a frenzy. That's all believable is the word, but like they know that they've got to wrestle for an hour, so they're no going all guns blazing. They start off with a sort of long collar and elbow tie up. It's almost like the first round of a boxing match feeling sort of thing.
Yeah,
aye.
And the announcers are doing quite a good job of explaining that as well. They are pointing out you can't come out and go 100 miles an hour. You'll be done within 10 minutes, and then where do you go from there?
And the other thing I liked is we get a first fall after 11 minutes, but it's not like sometimes in matches like this, 2 out of 3 falls and multiple fall matches, like people miraculously get a pinfall win by like doing a suplex sort of thing.
Yeah.
We get rock bottom almost out of nowhere for the Rock to take the first fall, but it's his finishing move. And I was thinking, imagine today's sort of climate where like they kick out a 600 stunner sort of thing. They'd have to do like a 10-hour Ironman match to get a fall. And then something that I've never ever seen the Rock do is he starts working a body part.
Yeah, it stood out because, as you say, it's not. I've never really thought of him. He's athletic and he's obviously charismatic. I've never thought of him as like a ring technician and things like that. But I think maybe again the nature of the type of match it is backs up the decision that he would logically be more likely to do something like that in a match like this, where the more you can, I think, wear down your opponent, the better chance you've got of having success later on in a match like this.
I thought it was like seeing Hulk Hogan. It was like seeing Hogan doing a second rope diving elbow or something like that. You know what I mean? It was bizarre. I actually written here, I wish I saw The Rock wrestle more like this. It was really cool. So I've got this kind of broken down into different time periods throughout the match. So if I go beyond, just tell me if you've got things you wanted to sort of fill in. But as far as 20 minutes gone, I've got here that Triple H looks out on his feet. The Rock is kind of dominating this match. At 1-0 up, they go out into the crowd, and things sort of turn. Triple H sort of turns the tide as they're out in the crowd. They get back in the ring, and Triple H gets back on top. We're now, like at 30 minutes, and the Rock is still in there, and he's still working on Triple H's knee when he gets the chance.
Yeah.
He runs Triple H's knee into the stairs.
Yeah.
We're about mid 20s, round about there. And quite in similar fashion to the way that the Rock Bottom came out of nowhere, Triple H just hits the pedigree, boom, 1-0.
Yeah, I like that. That you get to a stage of 1-1, but they've both used their finishing moves, like you touched on earlier. But actually, also, I felt like both of the pins kind of came a wee bit against who was dominating at the time.
Yep.
And that I couldn't remember. The only memory I had really going into this match is that there were quite a few pins, and I had a feeling Triple H ended up winning, but I couldn't remember off the top of my head. But in terms of the way the scoring went and the pins went and things like that, I didn't know what to expect when or who was going to take the next fall and things like that, which made it pretty entertaining to watch back through.
Yeah.
Because most things we watch, we have a fair idea of what happened one way or another in terms of who wins and things like that. But this, it adds another dimension when you don't know the pattern that the pinfalls are going to come in.
Yeah. Yeah. Similarly, I remember how this finished. But I remember thinking they did the opposite to Brett and Sean, i.e. a lot of pinfalls, but I couldn't remember, similar to what you're saying. So we're at 1-1, and then Triple H does the exact or gets the sort of thing that you kind of want somebody to do in a match like this. He follows this up pretty much straight away. He rolls the Rock up in an inside cradle and gets another pin, 2-1.
Yep.
I like that.
Yeah, me too, because you've obviously, if you're selling your finishing move, as was enough to put the guy away, then he's surely not back absolutely fine anytime quickly. So why wouldn't the person try and take as much advantage as quick as he possibly could? And I sort of touched on earlier about Triple H doing some what I thought of as logical things to try and there's another one that will come up at some point, but to try and get himself the leads and the advantage in this match.
Yeah. So by sort of halfway point, 30 minutes in, they're up the entranceway taking suplexes on the concrete. And I was like, oh my God, they still got halfway to go. They're both, their chests are heaving.
Mm-hmm.
And you think about a 30-minute match, you would think that that's like a sort of a long main event type match. And we go back to the ring, and Triple H hits a beautiful pile driver, and that's enough to get 3-1. And again, that's logical. He's taken. By this point, Rock's wrestled for half an hour. He's taken Triple H's. He's taken his finishing move. He's taken the concrete suplex out there, and then he's just taken that pile driver. So it makes sense.
Yeah.
That he's been unable to kick out of that as well.
And I like the announcers. I think it's around here as well that they're selling that basically from here the Rock cannot afford to lose the next fall. If you look at where you are timeline wise, and it's he's 2 up basically. That he can't fall that far behind. So they're telling that kind of story as we're going as well, because what you don't want to lose is the significance of each fall within a match like this, and they do a good job of selling that, I think.
They definitely do. I feel like you've talked before about JR liking to commentate like it was a sports event, and like this match just lends itself perfectly to that sort of type of commentary. We get Triple H putting on a sleeper and just sort of slowing things down, but I don't think my cynical mind thought they're taking a break. My into this mind thought that's a good idea, because you're two falls up and they're both knackered. He's sort of, it's kind of like taking the ball at the corner sort of behaviour. But Rock gets a little flurry. He hits or he kind of messes up. He used to go round the back. The guy would go for a clothesline, go round the back and hit the DDT. He because they're both probably soaking with sweat, he sort of slips off him. But then he hits a DDT, and he gets a 3 count there, takes it back to 3-2. And I take it this next fall is your next logical Triple H move.
This.
So a few more minutes go by, and Triple H says fuck it and levels him with a steel chair? I levels him with a steel chair. And that obviously gets a disqualification. and takes it back to 3-all. And then Triple H does exactly what you would do in this situation and pins him after leveling him with a steel chair and takes it back to 4-3.
Yeah.
Good storytelling, that, eh?
Yeah, I like that. I mean, that again, he's the heel in the scenario. He's gonna do whatever it takes to get him the biggest advantage he possibly can, and he knows fine well doing it, he will lose a fall, but he knows, I think, as well, he's going to be able to get that straight back, and he has significantly weakened his opponent, which just makes total sense.
It's class. Probably the most surprising of all the falls, not that long after Triple H pins him to win 4-3, then puts him in a sleeper hold and Rock submits. So what are we at there? 12 minutes to go at that point. And I remember thinking, like, this is getting so close to the end, but then we've watched so many matches that have went 12 minutes and you can fit so much into a 12-minute match. It's quite a long match.
Yeah.
So where do we go from here? 10 minutes to go, superplex. Rock hits a superplex on Triple H. 5 minutes to go, they're on the outside. And I think Triple H takes Rock up onto the announcer's table, doesn't he?
Yeah.
But then Rock reverses it and hits a pedigree onto the table. And it's at that point that Triple H gets counted out. He doesn't answer the 10 count. And we're back to 5-4. So when was that? Sorry, 5 minutes to go. So we're getting excited now. We're getting sort of final flurry. They're probably hitting their, like their final gear, so to speak. Mm-hmm. We get all the way down to 2 minutes to go. The Rock drops People's elbow, and it's 5-all.
So by this point, the McMahons have come down the ramp.
Okay.
So you kind of knew, I think, right from the start when he sends them backstage, that's probably not going to be the end of that story. And I do remember the match must have sucked me in to a decent extent, because I remember seeing them and thinking, oh, like I'd kind of forgot that it's really obvious that they were going to come back down at some point. But I think the match just sucked me in to the extent that I wasn't sitting waiting for it. Because when they did appear, it's pretty obvious that was gonna have happened. But yeah, the time was also kind of flying by. I don't know what you thought when you were watching it, but like every now and then I just checked to see how long was left on the show rather than how long the match had been, how long was left in the show, and I was like, oh, this is getting pretty close. This is getting tight, and you know then that there can only be so much of the match left.
So, like you said, it sort of culminates really quickly into absolute carnage and chaos. So we're at 5-all, and it's at this point that DX decide, like X-Pac, Road Dogg are in the ring, Shane, Vince, I think they're all in the ring. And then I love the whole thing. But hold on. Let me compose myself. I love this finish to this match. It's absolutely amazing. It's so silly, but also amazing. So my favourite thing about it is all those guys are in the ring and they're like the Rock's trying to fight them off and Rock's taking a beating and all that sort of stuff. And it doesn't switch to you being able to see that Shining-esque video type thing, because that is playing, but you just see it in the background. Right? I think sometimes you would have seen it as a choice that they would have put that as the main thing on the screen and you wouldn't be able to see anything else. But you see it for the point of view almost from behind them in the ring, and you still see, and they're all sort of looking at each other confused and everything like that. And then out of nowhere, Undertaker is just there. Like he's down there on his bike. You've never seen him. What does he look like? You've never seen him look like this before.
Yeah.
And obviously, in retrospect, like we know what that American Badass character was like, but at the time, it was crazy to think that there was another side to the Undertaker. And the way he gets in the ring, and I think he grabs, who's he grab? Is it Stephanie he grabs, and he's like doing that sort of crazy face he's making at her. He chokeslams X-Pac. He's just rattling everybody that's running towards him.
Yeah.
He gives a big boot to somebody, and it looks like he just levels them.
Yeah. This was a total surprise for me. You obviously, I think, remembered it or remembered this was gonna happen at the end of the match. I didn't. I couldn't remember the way it was gonna end, and see, even when it went 5-5 and you're like 2 minutes to go, I was thinking, oh, is it gonna be like, is Shawn Michaels going to screw The Rock or something like that's what I was kind of waiting for. But then I think when the McMahons first came down, it's like they're not happy with Michaels because they don't, I think, feel he's called it enough in Triple H's favour. I mean, he's disqualified the man, counted him out of 2 falls. So then I'm thinking, well, it can't be that unless, they're just setting me up to believe it can't be that. But yeah, Undertaker appearing was a total surprise for me. I had right when the finish happens, I had oh yeah, that came in my mind. But even when he appeared, I was like, I don't quite know what's going to happen here.
I'm just thinking, I don't think Undertaker's at WrestleMania 2000.
Is he not?
Is that the only WrestleManias? Maybe not the only WrestleMania.
I think he missed a couple during his run through injury. I think he missed a couple.
So the storyline is that he's walked out on his contract, I think.
Right.
And he's got beef with Vince. But he's been gone. I wish I'd looked up to see how long he's been gone for. I can't remember. I don't remember him being at Royal Rumble 2000. So he's been gone a bit.
Okay.
He's certainly been gone a bit. So this is honestly, this is one of my favourite finishes. I think it's that kind of thing of watching a TV series, watching the full box of The Sopranos, and then getting to the end versus just watching the last episode. So, like the full culmination of this epic match and then this ridiculous finish put all together is just amazing. I love it. Absolutely
Still
love
hear
it.
all the enthusiasm in your voice.
I don't know who put it together. I should have looked that up as well to see who actually put this together. I don't suppose you did you?
I didn't, no.
And like, I'm not the world's biggest lover of like the American Badass character or anything like that, but it's just the way it's not overproduced in a way that it's like too much. It's kind of like being there live almost.
And there was no, I know you said about the video sequence thing, and what was it? He's coming or something like that. But there was no, I assume, advertising of there's any chance of him appearing or anything. It's one of those would probably be more difficult to do now and as the years go on because someone will leak something or whatever. To boost pay-per-view sales, you drop some hints that he's going to be there or something like that. But I feel like he just appeared kind of cold. Like there was very little indication this was happening, especially not really looking for it because I didn't know that anything was going to be happening at the end of it. Yeah, just really well done. I suppose if it was on TV now as well, a star that big, they would want to get the viewers, so they'd want to get out there that it was going to be happening. But no, it just and he's obviously, he's a legend, he's a huge star. To debut this new gimmick in this way, and yeah, it ended up being around for a few years, didn't it? It's brand new, it's totally fresh, and it's probably got a lot of people watching being like, what the hell,
this is crazy.
What? Yeah.
Aye. There's a great shot of him. I think he stood outside the ring and he's doing the eyes. And I don't really remember if he did that as the American Badass or not. I don't really think he did, but it was maybe just the whole like sort of transition thing. But like I liked that there was this sort of little bit of his old gimmick there. Aye. Yeah, that was cool. Really cool. So I think what happens, because it's so chaotic and they are running out of time. I think what happens is Michaels DQs The Rock for the Undertaker attack on Triple H.
Yeah, so Undertaker has chokeslammed Triple H and Michaels sees it and it's like, I don't know, the very end, the last few seconds probably of the match. So yeah, the bell rings, and it's the Rock's been disqualified for that fall. So Triple H leads 6-5 right at the end.
Yeah, amazing. 5-star match for me.
Very well done. And you talked earlier about the differences between this and the other Iron Match, which we can remember, with this being multiple falls. I think when I look at it and think about it, you could, God, I shudder to think what would maybe happen now, but you could get carried away and be like, 10-9 or something like that going into. But it did feel like every fall was pretty realistic, pretty believable, that either in duration of match and exhaustion level or just impact of the move, that you would score a pinfall for doing that.
Yeah.
Whereas I don't know, I see why they went the way they did in the Bret Hart Shawn Michaels one. I do get it, I understand it. Makes it look like it was very, very difficult to get a pin on either of these guys. But with doing this way, at least they made every pin seem like, that if this was a singles match between the two, a 15-minute match, that could have ended it. I get that.
Yeah. And over the years, you've seen these two sort of feud coming up the ranks as well. So you've seen them have multiple epic matches over the Intercontinental title, and you've seen them just at that previous pay-per-view go back and forward as well. So it all sort of ties in the story. Professional wrestling done well. Yeah, I think is fair to say. I don't know where both go. I've done terrible research for this. I don't know where both go from here. I did watch the Raw the night after, and the Rock basically whips everybody's ass that was involved.
Yeah,
Vince, he's hammering Vince backstage.
The Rock must get the belt back. Oh God, when would he get it back? He definitely. So the next WrestleMania is 17, yeah. After this,
yeah.
So he faces Austin at 17. And what?
So when Austin came back at that Backlash, he's a bit tubby. Like, I'm fairly sure he comes back. He's still out of shape and all that, and he doesn't return again for a few months.
Right. Okay. Triple H is up against Undertaker, which I suppose you can
Makes sense.
You can find a logic to, depending on what happens after this event. But in effect, Undertaker's just assisted Triple H in keeping or winning the belt. Who was champion going into this?
Rock was champion going into it.
So helped Triple H win it, but yeah, not in the nicest, friendliest, most helpful way.
Was he? I think he was. Aye, because Austin helped The Rock win the title at
That's
that
right.
previous pay-per-view.
Yep.
Aye.
Yep.
So yeah, a mixed bag, but between this and Benoit and Jericho, I think they do enough to sort of tip it over to being an enjoyable, like a good pay-per-view. What do you think?
Yeah. No, I enjoyed it. I enjoyed this match. I enjoyed the Jericho Benoit. There's some other things on it that I thought were fine, in terms of like entertainment value. Like talked about the triple threat European title match. That was fine. I found the ending a bit like you, not one of my favourites. And the 6-man tag that started off, it's just entertainment, but I quite liked seeing the majority of those guys doing their thing. A mixed bag, but the main, it's all about the main event, really. And it's a very, very well executed main event. So done well, as you say. It's probably not the easiest thing and the easiest type of match to get right. It felt like they got this right.
100%. Felt, really difficult to find flaws in it. I think the only thing I would have said was them running out of time at the end, but it didn't even spoil it, sort of thing. So, aye.
Yeah.
Well played, Paul Levesque. Well played, Black Adam.
I was just looking at what the next pay-per-view was, but it's a King of the Ring event. The next pay-per-view.
King of the Ring 2000. Who won that? Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle, Rikishi.
Yeah, Kurt Angle beat Rikishi in the fight for that, and The Rock and Kane and Undertaker up against Vince,
Vince and Shane.
Triple H, and that must be where The Rock gets the belt back. I think maybe by not beating Triple H, I think he maybe beats one of the
is
others.
it Pin Vince or something like that?
Yeah, I think something like that. Yeah,
that sounds bad.
it doesn't. It's not one I'm looking at thinking I've got to make this the next one we watch.
Nice segue.
Yeah,
Impressive. Hit me.
Okay, so
talk to me about. Yeah, talk to me about.
Right, so I decided. I'll tell you where I started and where I got to. Right, I thought to myself, Nitro. That's something I've not watched an awful lot of. Right, and then I thought, my mind first went to, I wonder what the first Nitro was like. And I thought they did a lot of the story, which was I think around Lex Luger appearing when I think everyone suspected he was still with WWF at the time. But then my thoughts went to the last Nitro. So last ever episode of Nitro, you've actually got the simulcast. So they're doing the show, but you've got, I think it's Shane is there and will appear in the ring. You've got Vince McMahon cutting in at times and being on their screen, and vice versa. And I thought, I'm very aware of this and I've seen stuff about it, but I don't know if I've ever actually just sat and fully watched what was the last episode of Nitro, and talked about, who's there, where the belts end up and things like that, who's going to be moving across straight away. Obviously, we know there's quite a few that don't and wouldn't. But yeah, it made me just think, I think it'd be good to watch the last ever Nitro.
Nice. I like it. I'm game. And I think it opens up a lot of talking points. Possibly some things that we've covered before, but something that we're both probably, I would say, quite passionate about.
Yeah. So what I can't remember, because we were originally going to be recording this last week, and I'm sure I had this written down, but neither of us were 100% top of our game last week, so we put it off for a little bit. And I'm sure somewhere on a bit of paper is written down exactly when this last Nitro was, but I don't have it to hand anymore. It's March 2001 at some point.
Yep.
So yeah, I think that'll be good. That'll be interesting and hopefully entertaining.
Aye. No, when we went back and looked at fantasy booking, what we would have done with the invasion, which I'm fairly sure we made a bit of a mess of, but I remember going, I think we ended up at a really unsatisfactory draw.
I think,
and we gave SmackDown to like WCW or something like that. We would have been panning that if that's what we did.
We maybe didn't have enough, rules or how far, because it's never ending. Basically, is how far you could go with it.
That was ridiculous when you said that like King Kong should come crashing down through the building and all that.
I think we ended up like, did we say that were rules about you can only have the people who actually moved across or something like that, and then. That was obviously.
Nah, we had Goldberg in there and everything.
Did we? We were just doing whatever we wanted with it.
I think so.
So these guys that are getting paid their full money to just sit at home, we're saying, nah, they came.
But I remember going back and watching this episode and finding it really entertaining. So,
okay,
good. That was during COVID. I watched that. That was during lockdown. I watched that though. So maybe that had like. A different level of boredom attached to it.
Yeah,
you weren't allowed out of the house.
Like cabin fever at that point.
Aye, that sounds good. And like I say, I'm sure we'll get into what an absolute botch they possibly made of the whole WCW thing.
Yeah. Maybe
I think
maybe
I could
we
talk
will
about
watch.
that for like days.
Yeah. maybe we will watch and think, well, why didn't they actually just do this? This is really obvious now. Now that we're clear-minded, this is what they should have done. You never know.
Have you ever listened to Bruce Pritchard's podcast about that show, Final?
I
Final
definitely
Show?
have, but probably quite a long time ago.
I just remember, I think he says there was only a few of them went, him, Shane.
Mhm.
It must have just been so surreal for like WCW guys seeing Shane McMahon walking backstage and stuff like that.
I mean,
So
but,
bizarre.
you're literally you're seeing these guys come in and thinking, do I have a job tomorrow? I don't know. Maybe I do. Maybe I don't. And it turned out, I assume quite a lot of them didn't. You know, not just taking into account the actual performers in the ring, but everyone that's working for their crew and things like that.
That's it, aye.
Are they getting picked up? Yeah, I probably, if I was them, I probably would have felt really awkward in the situation. You know, you're basically going and taking, like, overseeing this last ever episode of this show. It's weird.
Aye, that's going to be interesting.
Hmm.
Cool. Good shout. Good shout. And I've made my pick for after that, but I won't reveal that right now because I will probably change it. Because I've been listening to Brian Gewertz's book. I think that's why I made that pick, and I'm fairly sure I will change it after a couple of. Well, we'll just be recording next week, but I am sure I'll change it again.
You recommend the book?
Aye, I'd recommend it. I listened to an audiobook, and it's him that narrates it.
Okay.
I'm not sure if I would go as far as to say that it comes across as likable.
Okay.
I don't think he does, but yeah, it's an interest. Like I find all sort of wrestling books that discuss a lot of stuff that goes on backstage interesting. He seems to have overseen quite a lot of shit gimmicks. Would be my take. You know, he's talking about he wrote a script, a screenplay for the Eugene movie,
Right.
which I found like shockingly just what he was allowed. I think he said he was allowed 3 months off to write a screenplay for the sort of Eugene. What do they call it when like a superhero gets his sort of backstory and all that sort of stuff?
Origin story.
The origin story of Eugene.
Well,
He said that when he went off to, Vince was the one that wanted him to do this, and he went off and was off for 3 months. And when he came back, he said Eugene was like white hot when he went off, and I think he had a match with Triple H at a SummerSlam or something.
yeah, I think that's right.
He says when he came back, the crowd were booing him. Even though he was still a babyface.
Surely everyone would know something like that is not gonna stay hot for long. It's just not.
Unbelievable. He said that they were putting him in like 4 or 5 different spots on Raw and all that. They were just completely overusing him. Anyway, I would recommend giving it a read if you're interested.
Okay.
Cool. Right. Well, we'll get away and get onto that final Nitro. Look out for the Ironman match between Shawn Stasiak and Bam Bam Bigelow. It's an absolute ripper.
I'm suddenly worried that's real. It can't be. It's fine. Okay.
I mean, an Ironman match over like 3 minutes or something like that. But yeah, it's a good one. Until then, take it easy, Adam.
You too.
And I shall see you next week.
Yes.